Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. It is Thursday, and you know what that means. That means we bring back the man, the myth, the legend, Jonathan Twomley. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. One of my favorite days of the week when I get to talk to you about investing and
I appreciate that. And my channel
housing.
loves you, right? I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched some of the comments, but they really appreciate you giving us an hour. So I just wanted to thank you personally. So thank you very much.
It's one of the highlights of my week. So
Awesome.
thank you all. I thank all you guys for watching. This is, you allow me to do it. Right?
There you go. Well, hey, we got three exciting topics today. I want to start off with one that kind of goes against everything or almost everything that I think. And there's an analyst. Her name is Ivy Zellman. Mm-hmm. She has just released a book recently and thus has been on CNBC and Bloomberg and all of these channels talking about housing kind of rolling over. They brought up, at least in the CNBC videos I saw, that, hey, Goldman Sachs says we're going to go up 16% by the end of 2022. What do you think, Ivy? And Ivy basically said they're wrong. Housing is going to go down. The trend is broken. Housing is going to bust. Right? She was pretty negative. So, did you see that? Have you seen any of this? And then I'll go through her argument if you haven't.
Yeah. So I was aware of this presentation that she was going to give on like the Walker and Dunlop channel or something like that, because I'm on their email list. It looked really interesting to me, but I unfortunately had a conflict with it, so I couldn't watch. But I'm going to go get the video and watch the replay.
Okay.
It's certainly an interesting topic. I mean, it's always good to like stake out a position unlike everybody else. And, the way these things work is if you're right, everybody will remember. And if you're wrong, nobody will remember. So
exactly.
And it's great. So,
yeah, so I've watched about an hour of material across various channels, and I've written down 5 kind of keys that she had. And again, I'm summarizing, so I guess this is hearsay or whatever. But the biggest one that was shocking to me, and again, as you said, different than everybody else, right? What I had thought going into this was said by so many, I never even questioned it. But now that she's out here, I have to go, I need some information. And that is basically that the US housing market is already overbuilt. And I don't know about you, but everybody keeps telling me for the last decade, we've been underbuilding. We're 4 or 5 million units behind. And Ivy's like, nope, we've got 12 to 20% too much already. And I'm like, that is so different than everything I've heard. I gotta go poke at that a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm kind of shocked by this claim. I literally had, for my multifamily launchpad private coaching students, I had a day-long mastermind Tuesday this week, and we do this 4 times a year. And I often get people like Ryan Severino, who's the chief economist of Jones Lang LaSalle, to come and talk to the group. And so Ryan's now like a regular guest on these events, and he gives us an update pretty much 2-3 times a year on where the housing market is. And that's one of the things that Ryan talked about was we are 5 million units short by pretty much everybody's analysis. And and I asked him the question, is this a temporary thing that we're short now? Are we catching up with building, or is this a structural problem? And he said, I think it's probably, if I had to put a stake in the ground on either one, I think it's a structural issue that we're not catching up with. And the reason for that is, you and I have talked about before, it's just very difficult to build pretty much everywhere, because people just, especially multifamily, people just don't want it near them. They don't want new housing developments near them. They don't want any tall thing near them. They don't want concentrated housing near them. And so that was his interpretation. But without having seen what she said, I have no way to really analyze her claims, but it certainly is contrary to what everybody else out there is saying.
Yeah. Again, I watched videos. I haven't seen the report, have not seen the hour or 2 hour long thing. I'm looking for it. She called it cradle to grave. So hopefully somebody out there will find it and send it to me. But really, one of the things I think she was pointing out is housing formation. She said, or at least in one of the videos, I noted down that housing formation is the lowest since the 1930s. which is obviously the Great Depression. Makes sense. So I thought that was an interesting thought. Again, I haven't checked the data. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's kind of a 2020 problem where people went back home and they stopped getting married. I don't know, but it doesn't feel right, but maybe.
Well, so there was a lot of discussion of this coming out of the great financial crisis, right?
True.
And for 10 years after the great financial crisis, there was a lot of discussion about how household formation was lagging.
Mhm.
But the thought was, well, it's because the millennials are doing it older,
Yeah.
right? And also the great financial crisis has made it more difficult. But
Sure.
as we emerged from that and really got, sort of when the growth really was kind of kicking up the last few years before COVID, we were starting to hear about, well, now the millennials are forming households. First of all, the most important factor was that they were just older. They were just in that,
31's the magic number, at least when you look at
sort of
averages.
getting into hitting their 30s and, getting married, having kids and needing housing. Right.
Mhm.
So, and then other people were like finally able to like move out of their parents' basement and their childhood bedroom and start
Mhm.
going out and renting apartments and that kind of thing. So that was on the upswing as far as I recall.
Yeah, me too.
However, there is one thing that is interesting, and I really want to watch this interview now to see which data she's talking about, because it is true that population growth in the United States from the census data has just come out. Population growth from 2010 to 2020 was the slowest since the Great Depression,
Mhm.
right? So there may be something to it. Maybe if you kind of like different people are looking at different slices of the pie, sort of how they're interpreting the data, because it could be the fact that the household formation rate has ticked up again, but it's a smaller pool of people.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
So,
Yeah.
but we don't know. I mean, on the other hand, the millennials are like the biggest generation in history.
That's
So
where I'm at is,
it's kind of like, so I don't, again, there's food for thought here. So I think we should probably, maybe go watch the video and then come
we got to
back
get
next
in.
week and talk it through again. But just, and then we can compare like our before and after take, like this is our before take, and then we'll have our after take.
I would love to watch it if I can get a hold of it. That would be awesome. So the last thing I kind of noted down, which is interesting, it's actually something I talked about over a year ago. And this data we can kind of test. And the idea is we have, I think she said 77% of mortgage holders have 30-year fixed rate debt below 3.25.
Wow.
That's, again, don't know if it's true, but the idea, what she was basically saying is people that are in that mortgage are going to be frozen because 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, rates are 5.5 or 6.5, and they want to go bigger. It's kind of a double whammy, right? You get the bigger house and you also have a higher rate. You have a payment shock. This is actually something we could test because we can go back and look at the 1970s. And I spent an hour this morning looking for this and couldn't find it. I want to know how many existing homes were sold in 70, 71, 72, 73, and really see if transactions stopped. Because that decade rates went up, and I'm trying to figure out if housing stopped. I couldn't find the data. I found data back to 2000, but nothing about the 1970s. I have to assume that data is somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Existing home sales, but that is something we could test. So in theory, how does that hit you, right? You're in your first time home. You got a 2.75 interest rate. 10 years from now, you have 3 kids. You have a bigger paying job. Are you really going to just add a bedroom and bath and stay put, or are you going to upgrade? Because she's basically saying they're not upgrading.
I don't know, because we already have this problem now, and we have low interest rates. So, right. So, I mean, it's because of low interest rates, right? They've kept the payment, as we've discussed before on this show many times, they've kept the payment to stay the same, but the amount of down payment you have to come up with has grown, enormous, right? So it's made it really impossible for people to move up to the next level. And especially now what you have to do, it's like somehow in this buyer's market, you have to somehow find a house to move into, sell your house and do a double closing so that you can move your equity from your existing house into your, because most people don't have the ability
Oh
to
yeah.
save
Write
up a
check.
whole
Yeah.
new down payment, right, out of cash, out of savings, so that then they can like, buy one and then sell the other, right? So you've got to do it all at the same time, right? Or you've got to like sell,
Mhm.
move out, rent, find a place, buy, move 2 times in 2 years. Like who the hell wants to do that? Right.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
frankly, that's what's kept me in my where we are. Right. So, because the difficulty of trying to figure out how to do this, we looked for a while, and just after a while,
Yeah.
just
So
held it.
let's take your
Yeah.
personal example, because I
Yeah.
always like talking reality. I feel, right? I like
Yeah.
numbers. I feel always bothers me. And I get a lot of I feel from Ivy, but again, hopefully I can watch the video and maybe I'm only getting snippets, which they cut up. But let's just say, for example, your market, because this is what happens, right? Prices get unaffordable, buyers can't buy, they get stretched, inventory slowly builds, right? Let's fast forward, whatever you want to say, 6, 12, 18 months. Suddenly inventory is up 300%. You now have options. You now can add clauses like, I must sell my home first. You're not going to be laughed out of the room. The environment changes. However, interest rates are a point higher. Right? Are you frozen because of the interest rate, or do you now?
Thank you for bringing this up, because I think that this is, I was going to sort of mention this point and I forgot about it. So thank you. Like if interest rates go up, it's going to dampen the house price appreciation, right? So so that means that, when we talked before about the driving factor being the payment size, right? If the interest rates go up, the payment size goes up. It's going to cause people to, the market's going to adjust. Right?
It'll adjust. Yes.
Yeah. So, and maybe, you have to kind of figure out, well, what is the amount of interest rate that's got to go up to cool the market? It doesn't seem like very much, because when they were talking, over the summer, even about the housing market cooling off, and they were talking, mortgage rates have gone up like 0.25%.
Yeah.
Right. And and I was like kind of shocked when I saw that, like that's all it took. But that just shows you like housing had become so expensive, and how stretched people are, that literally 1/4 point more of interest is, going to make or break you. And look, even when I'm doing my analysis for multifamily deals, because cap rates are so compressed right now, right? When I'm thinking about like, I've got to hit a certain number in order to get my investors interested in this deal, 1/4 of the point on the interest rate makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It really does. So it just in terms of like the cash flow, and like in terms of like, do I get paid, or is all the money going to go to the investors because I've got to pay them a certain preferred return and there's nothing left after that. Right. So so the interest rates, it is quite sensitive to interest rates. So if interest rates were to go up by a 1/4 of a point, I think there would be some lag time, right? See, what would happen is it always takes time for the seller's expectations to reset.
Exactly.
Right?
Price elasticity. Yeah.
Yeah. So the seller psychology is, I saw my neighbors sell their house for 1.5 million. So my house is worth 1.5 million.
Oh, no. Their house is worth 1.6 million.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no.
That guy got 1.5, and his house is a mess. And mine is the best house on the block, whatever,
Yeah.
And so mine is worth more. Right. And they're right if the market is really hot, but the problem is then the market changes, but that they're still anchored to that price, what that guy got. Right.
Yes.
So they're going to go to a broker. And this is actually when you start seeing the tell for this is when you're looking on, say, Trulia or whatever, at Zillow, and you start seeing for sale by owner rising. Right.
Exactly.
Because what happens is those guys go to a broker and they tell the broker, I want to list my house for 1.6 million. And the broker says, yeah, but right now your house is worth 1.3. And there's no, my neighbor got 1.5 or his. Well, yeah, but that was a year ago and interest rates are much higher now and the market has softened. And the guy's like, no, mine, he got 1.5. I want 1.5.
Exactly.
And then and so either the broker's like, all right, fine, I'll put it on for 1.5. Doesn't cost me anything. And nothing happens. And then the guy, because he can't sell his house, blames the broker.
Yep.
And tries to sell it himself. And this is what you see all the time.
Agreed.
Right. So it takes a lot of time for that And it happens in multifamily too, frankly. It's not just even where people are more sophisticated, the sellers are still anchored to that higher price. We saw this after the Great Recession. So, you know, there will be a lag time between, you know, the time, if that guy has to sell his house, then eventually he's going to start cutting the price and cutting the price and cutting the price because he'll have no choice. But for that guy who's like, you know, so it's always sticky on the way down. Eventually the market will reset. So I'm a little skeptical of this idea that something like just because interest rates go up, it'll cause, it may cause like the current frenzy to stop, right? That would happen.
It's a housing slowdown, not a
right.
crash.
But it wouldn't cause a crash, and it wouldn't cause like, you know, people to not be able to move up to the next, like it would have to be an interest rate hike plus the frenzy somehow staying the same.
Yeah, then
so
and
that which goes against her argument that demand for housing is falling somehow. So, you know, I'm a little skeptical about that. But
yeah,
again,
it
want
doesn't
to see
tie
her.
together. Yeah,
Want to see her argument to see where.
Yeah, and again, it'd be great to both watch it, take notes, and come back and share next week. That would be really cool. So let's see. Let me look at her notes or my notes from a couple of her videos. I think that's what I got. Basically, and the last thing will actually be topic number 3. So I will leave it there. So Jonathan, how can people find you and get part of your world?
Oh man, well, there are many ways, but let's see. I'm going to throw out something different today. Usually I say go join my Facebook community, but if you would like to invest in deals with me, I am actively looking for deals. I'm also working in partnership with other people to invest in deals that they found. Go to my website. It's twobridgesmanagement.com, and you can fill out the investor form and get onto my investor list. Now, I really only work with accredited investors, so sorry about that. But if you're accredited, please come on by, stop by the website. You can see the deals we've already done. If you can't figure out the URL, just search Two Bridges Asset Management, and you know, we'll pop right at. But the URL is Two Bridges Management, and MGMT for management. So
very cool. Thanks, Jonathan.
Absolutely.